Joining us on this broadcast, our guests are live from South Africa. We have South African MP Shameen Thakur. Thank you, ma'am, for speaking to us, taking out your time. We also have two other guests joining us at this moment. We'll not be revealing their identity given the current situation. But ma'am, if I could come to you first up, tell us firstly about how the Indian government is corresponding with the South African government to make sure that the Indian people there are safe, their safety is taken care of, and all of the resources are reached to them well in time.
Well, I want to state that we are very appreciative that the Foreign Affairs Ministry in India, the Honorable Minister Jaishankar Ji, has been in contact with our Foreign Affairs Minister, the Honorable Naledi Pandor. The talks are ongoing. Letters have been written to our High Commissioner, our consulate. We are getting, messages of calm. We had Mr. Vijay Jolly. He had handed a memorandum to our High Commissioner in New Delhi, asking for the guarantee of safety for the Indian community. So we are highly, highly appreciative of this.
Ma'am, I'll come back to you. But, if I could take this to our guest who's joining us live from Tonga in South Africa. Sir, we've been coming across several reports of what the Indian community has been going through. There have been complaints on large scale on how basic material is not being reached to you all, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to stay put in one place without facing all of those difficulties. In the last few hours, has the situation improved? Because the South African president has also deployed additional 25,000 plus troops to make sure that the situation is, relatively under control. This question is for our guest who's joining us live from Tonga. Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, sir, that question was for you. I was meaning to ask you what the situation on ground has been the last few hours. Yes.
Yes, well, in the last few hours, I would say there has been some semblance of calm. However, the shortage of essential groceries, they are still being transported and reaching the grocery stores and so on. And there is, this fear mongering and the fear factor because of past events that is, creating some trepidation amongst the communities. But I must commend the civic leaders from both the Indian community and the African community and various other communities who have come forward and, have stemmed the tide. And I would think, things are beginning to lighten up. The criminal element has been taking advantage of the situation. The hungry, they became, ordinary looters, and they targeted businesses. And soft targets that lived on the border areas became, vulnerable communities to this entire program. It was a well-orchestrated program, I would say, from some outside force. And I think, the police and the army should have come out much faster. But it seems like things are coming into order, but the border areas are still very vulnerable. The ones that are, where the communities are feeling affected, and there's a lot of distrust that has been built historically. And, it doesn't help when certain community politicians from across the divide have made inflammatory remarks 2 months ago, and that has been doing its rounds, and that is not helping us in any way. Those are meant for vote buying politics. So
the Indian community seems to be facing the worst of it. That's true. Of what we've seen so far, that's how it appears to be. But, if I could ask this to my guest who's joining us from Phoenix, sir, it's been scary. The visuals we've been seeing of how warehouses, shopping malls have entirely been set on fire. The sky's been filled of smoke. Indian businesses in particular, as per reports, have been singled out. Shops have been singled out. They've been set on fire and targeted repeatedly. So there is a huge economic loss also that we are looking at. But as far as the Indian community there is concerned, you all are coordinating it with each other as far as supplies go, as far as basic protection and safety is concerned. So how is that coordination really coming along?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Hi. Yeah, no, it's a challenge in the Indian community currently. We actually basically under siege. There's poverty on both sides of the spectrum, not only on the African black part, there's also challenges on the Indian areas with COVID, etc. Then the other thing is the issue of apartheid spatial planning. Now, if you look at the city of Durban, you have the black areas or African areas pre-1994 on the outskirts. Then you have the Indian areas next to them, bordering them. And then you have industries, then you'll have a highway, and then you'll come to the elite suburbs, which now at that time was predominantly white suburbs. So this, what can I say, rights were preempted by the apartheid government to say that, the African people and the Indian people must now actually enter in some sort of altercation if there's a civil unrest. So we basically a buffering point before we get to the elite suburbs. And I can guarantee you, there's been casualties on both sides of the African community and the Indian community. But I haven't heard of anybody saying, and I don't want to racial polarize this thing, but the truth is there's been more casualties in the Indian community and the African community. The other issue is also the issue of right to property. I mean, one cannot just dispel the issue that people have paid 20 years for bonds, housing loans, and now there's an imminent, what can I say, an imminent land invasion, a home invasion that is actually planned by some of these guys. So how do people now actually defend themselves? And then these are constitutional rights that are actually being degraded because everybody has got a right to home, or every South African, as per the constitution of this country. And then everybody has a right to protection and a right to, what can I say, security, which is enshrined in our South African constitution. And up till now, ma'am, there's been nobody from Chapter 9 institutions, and we have very, very strong Chapter 9 institutions that are part of our constitution. And these are the Human Rights Commission, the Public Protector. Nobody has been on the ground to physically come and see. I mean, you know what, to be honest with you, we have basically our schools have 80% of African learners that attend these schools, and they're all in the Indian areas. And this has been a disruption to education. This has been an economic sabotage. It's been
it has literally brought the country to a standstill in a way, isn't it? Ms. Thakur, if I could come to you, I want to understand why then is the Indian community being targeted in particular? Of course, we're seeing violence spread across, and we do know how these protests turn into violence and how in the name of riots, looting, large-scale looting has also been taking place. But why is the Indian community then particularly being targeted? Some are of the opinion and are suggesting that this is a result of the backlash because of the Gupta brothers. But using the Gupta brothers to unleash this kind of violence on the entire community is something I just don't understand. I fail to agree to that completely.
The Gupta brothers are just used as, scapegoat in this situation, because we've had long ongoing, systematic corruption that has plagued our country. And this is not only during the democracy, it's also in the apartheid era. So the thing is that to blame one particular business group is wrong. The other thing is that the other speaker has spoken about, these racial enclaves that were created by the apartheid government. But our government has not done enough or fast enough things to actually bring about spatial reintegration. The planning has been weak, and we have informal settlements. We are bordered by other, especially the black community. We've lived in harmony. But whenever racial tensions are stoked, the problem is that the Indian community gets sandwiched between the black and the white community, and therefore we bear the brunt of all the violence. But the bigger issue is that also on the social media, there's a lot of disinformation going on currently that's they're creating a lot of fear-mongering. And a lot of these have black African voices on them, and some of them also have Indian voices on them. And what I am appealing for is that, it is imperative on the black community as well as the Indian community to stop, circulating these, because these are causing more problems. But also appealing to our government, our national intelligence, to get to the bottom of who are the people behind this sort of toolkit chaos causing the racial tensions between our community. So there's a lot of work to be done to actually try to calm the situation. And I agree fully that the spatial racial planning has been a large cause of why the Indian community gets hit as soft targets first.
Yes, Ms. Thakur, more so because we're talking about a nation that has faced this issue in many parts of the world. So, coming from there is why this becomes all the more shocking and doesn't really go down well with the world community. But this kind of violence and destruction, nothing justifies it. There is violence and rioting all over South Africa. Looters are running wild on the streets, and all we can do is hope that the situation comes under control in no time. Thank you, gentlemen, and Ms. Thakur for speaking to us and joining us on this special broadcast of Our Global.